It is February 27th. This is our weekly developer meeting. And before we get started on the actual meeting, I'd like to go around all of the smiling faces that are here and do a quick introduction. So if everybody could tell us what your name is and why you came to this meeting, that would be great. Let's start with Tim.
My name is Tim. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota, and well, I'm here for all the things, but I'm excited about working on usability stuff lately. So check out the usability recording of the meeting we had right before this for all the details.
Great. Nate, let's do you next.
Hey folks, I'm Nate Lampton in Oakland, California, and I'm a core committer, and I'm here to give updates on mostly how issues are progressing along.
Jeff.
Hello, Jeff St. Pierre, core committer in Massachusetts, keeping abreast with the backdrop stuff.
Gregory.
I'm always here. Hi, sorry. Gregory from Melbourne. Mostly interested in usability issues about Backdrop, but anything related to Backdrop, really in any way that I can help.
Olaf.
Hi, I'm Olaf from Hamburg, Germany, and I'm interested in multilingual Backdrop and also using Backdrop for my clients. So as a site architect.
Justin. Don't know if you're here.
I had my camera covered up. Hi, I'm Justin. I'm in Florida. I'm a librarian, and I just wanted to view the meetings today because I want to know what you all were talking about. So I probably don't have much to add.
Well, thanks for coming.
Joseph.
I am Joseph Latt from Las Vegas, and I'm here to give updates on issues I've worked on.
Great. Let's see, we've got two exciting new announcements from the project management committee this week. One is that we have a new core committer. Yesterday, I believe, Peter Anderson, BW Panda, accepted the new responsibility of becoming a core committer, and Nate will follow up with him shortly to get moving on that, which is pretty exciting. And just this morning, Tim Erickson accepted the responsibility of joining the project management committee. So we're going to see some new active faces, which is really exciting. In the last week, there weren't any new modules released for Backdrop, but we have 5 modules that had new updates. So that's pretty exciting. Auto node title, diff, computed field, photo swipe, and Matomo reports all came out last week. And it looks like 2 of those were from Robert Garrigos and 2 were from Graham72 and 1 was from Jason Flatt. I don't know how to pronounce his online handle. All right. It's usually the other way around. So I just wanted to really quickly thank all those people for doing all the work on Contrib this past week, which is great. And then I want to turn it over to Nate to talk about project updates on Backdrop 4.
All right. So Backdrop 1.15.1. It's now, wow, it's been over a month since 1.15 came out, and we're still on 1.15.0, which is good. That means that we haven't had anything critical that's been pushing us to make a new bug fix release. Things that are in 1.15.1, there's, as always, like a pretty good list of things that are prioritized for the next bug fix release. Let's see, there's currently 63 open issues that are tagged for 1.15.1. So we definitely have a slew of work to go through, but I don't actually have any that are in the kind of prioritized, this is what we talk about during the meetings list. One exception to that is that we have some work and discussion that's been going on around making our tests run faster. And I think 2 weeks ago, no, just last week, we had a little think about how we can get that work completed. It's issue 4306. And Joseph Flatt did some work to optimize their tests, and then was working to actually speed them all up, like going through and refactoring each individual test. And he separated back out the refactoring of each individual test, so that the thing that just optimizes the test and adds timers to the tests is a standalone now in that issue 4306, and it has the pull request that's ready for review. And with those kind of more limited scope, it looks like this is probably, I haven't put eyes on it yet, but I think once we do, it was in pretty good shape previously. So that's great. Thanks, Joseph, for doing that work. Do you guys have anything else you guys would like to mention for 115.1?
Can I ask, I think I raised this last week. I'm just looking them up. There were some RTL, I think, bugs that got introduced in 1.15. Has anybody had a chance to look at those yet? I'm looking at one ticket and it looks like he closed the ticket, even though he said it affects upgrades, but not new installs, and then closed the ticket, but it should still be.
Yeah, if that's the case, it should still be open.
Right. So I haven't really looked at these and I don't know anything about them, but I just don't want them to get lost because they were actually regressions, if I understand correctly.
Yep. I had a quick look. I had a quick look early January, I think it was.
Right.
Or right after the release, but I haven't looked yet.
4277 is the one I'm looking at right now.
Yep, that should be maybe reopened.
Okay. So let's move on to 116. 116 will be our next minor release. That's where we add new features and functionality. Its release date is May 15th with a feature freeze on May 1st. So items that we've got cooking right now include this functionality that allows any config value to be overridden via settings.php. In Backdrop, we have settings that are specified in settings.php and then config that are in config files. And currently, places that need to be able to set values from settings.php, we tell people, or the module developers, to check if there's a value in settings, and if not, then read from the config file. But that requires modification for every module that needs a special location for these values. So it's not ideal. And so issue 2805 allows you to override any config value in any config file from settings.php, while also not, it also won't save those values back into the config file. So any overrides are just kind of like, they're just in settings.php and they don't actually affect the config files. That one, we added some more extensive test coverage on it. HerbDuel RTBC did. I added more tests and then he RTBC'd it again. So I think that's probably ready to go at any time.
Jeff, have you tested this with Drush? Does the Backdrop version of Drush support the include overridden thing?
I've never used that, so I haven't tested it.
Okay, maybe I'll test it. So what this does is, and it works for Drush in Drupal 7 as well, is it checks at variables that might have been overwritten in settings. So when you do Drush vget, it shows you what has been saved in the database. But if you do dash include overridden, it actually shows you the value of what. Yeah, and it works the same way with cget in Drush in Drupal 8 and 9.
That's smart. Yeah, let's put a feature request into the Drush queue.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's see. So next up is base and sub install profiles. It's issue 3174. This is BW Panda's issue. I don't think that there hasn't been any updates on this issue. It currently still needs code review, and since he's not here to add anything else, I think we'll just kind of move on from that one. let's see. This is a new issue. Enable autocomplete on all link and path fields, issue 3764. Another one that PW Panda is taking the lead on. And Gregory, you've been doing some work on it. Do you want to provide an update?
Yeah, I'll just have to take a look. I did some a review recently. I'm not sure. I left comments in the pull request. Maybe. Yep. So yeah, I think that BW Panda updated the PR. So yeah, just another round of review maybe from me, and then maybe it will be LTBC because it was working pretty good. It
So
was
this-
covering most of the things. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's one of those tiny things that improve usability a lot. Especially for people coming to Backdrop from WordPress, which sort of like does that.
Can you summarize what it's actually doing or where it's doing it?
Yeah, so basically it's going to do it everywhere. We have a link field now, but also pages like the site information where you specify for 3 pages that would be auto linked now. You start typing the name of the page that you want to put, and then it sort of like finds the responding node, I guess. And anywhere that paths are being specified, for example, like, yeah. And the good thing about it is like the way that it works, it's like a reference in Drupal, and it sort of like gives you the node number ID, but what we give as secondary information within brackets is the type of thing that you're linking to. So if you have a page that is called about and a taxonomy term or a layout that is called about, it will tell you what those 3 things, if they're listed in the thing, are. So if you look at BW Panda's screenshot from 15 days ago, it sort of like summarizes what it does.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. All right. Let's see. Also new this week, issue 1032, a new text format configuration UI. Doc Wilmot seems to be leading the charge on this. It's issue 1032. I didn't get a chance to look at this before the meeting, but I'm I'm excited that he's taking back up this torch again, that configuring a text format is a crazy and weird thing. And this issue is old, and there's been several different attempts at user interfaces to improve it. And the latest approach is, I think, configuring all of the individual filters and dialogues. I have yet to actually try it out, but the status is that it currently is marked needs work, but Doc Coleman is soliciting feedback. It's supposedly testable, so I think that means that we can go into the sandbox for that individual pull request and try it out and provide feedback on how it actually works. So that would be really great to get some feedback as to how people like that new approach.
Yeah, I did give it a quick spin in the sandbox. It works as expected. It's just a minor, I guess, CSS tweaks here and there just to fix the buttons to be consistent with what is happening in other places, like I think the managed field UI or the displays, where we set how they're being, like the widgets they're being used. So yes, it was minor things, but functionality-wise, it seems to work as expected.
In your opinion, is it an improvement?
It is because if you look at the screenshots at the top of that issue, the like the first screenshot there, right after the roles, you have the enable filters, which is its checkbox may reveal another item in the filter processing order and another item in the filter settings, which just makes the page look huge. And it's like things appear and disappear without being in the view of the user. So this sort of like makes it everything be in one place.
Oh, interesting. So what actually shows and hides is the configure link.
Yes. So what it does is everything is the whole thing, the enabled filters, the filter processing order, and the filter settings have all been meshed into a single table, which has draggable, reorderable rows. and each row has a button that says configure, which sort of like expands the table with what was the thing that we introduced, the field formatter settings thing, I think. Yeah, and then it works that way. So it's sort of like in line to what you're actually editing, and then you just save it and it works.
Yeah, this is a big one. I was like, oh, this issue looks like I was posting comments long ago, and then I get like halfway down the page and I get to that section where it's like 54 hidden items, you know, where the
Yes.
comments get collapsed, and it's
Yes.
like, oh,
Yeah.
this is a much bigger conversation. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay, that's super. So
Yeah, I'm confident because both the solution is like it works. It just needs minor tweaks here and there, and also Doc Wilmot is on it, so increases confidence.
yeah, well, that always means that, or seems to always mean that he just needs approval and direction, and then it will get done. But
Yep.
without those things, then he's gonna,
Yeah.
and then move on to something else, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Next up is 1575, provide a way to re-enable disabled text formats. Gregory, you're the advocate for this issue. Could you give us an
Yeah.
update?
So this has worked the other way. At some point, Doc Wilmot had enough, and he goes, "Oh, here's a pull request, fixed it." So he just picked up on where Jen has left off her pull request, her last pull request, and he's implemented it. And again, it's one of those things that needs code review and testing. I didn't get to test it at all. Excuse me.
Okay. Let's see. Next up, better workflow states issue 1475. This is just like the Doc Wilmot like section of the agenda, apparently. So he's also working on this issue. Jen, could you give us an update on that issue?
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago now, Tim, Greg, and I had a conversation to try and figure out what we thought that issue was supposed to do. And I think by the end of that conversation, we came to a consensus, which was good. And then last week, I tried to write up a document containing everything we had agreed on. And Tim and I recognized perhaps some more areas where we weren't sure what the pull request was supposed to do. So Tim tried to document the more technical aspects of what would actually be changing in core. And I haven't had a chance to read that over yet. But the hope is that this document that we're working on will help us be able to put in an updated issue summary and help us figure out what steps are remaining to get from the pull request we have now to something that will be a viable option for core inclusion. So we're getting closer. Tim, if you want to add something, you're muted.
Yeah, without opening this up too much, can I ask a specific question that maybe Nate could even help with if he remembers? To say what I wrote was technical is far overstating it. It was sort of my understanding of what we were trying to accomplish beyond the current UI, that there's a goal to make it like possible for Contrib to do more. And would it be fair to say that one of the goals here is that right now revisions are either like the current revision that's being displayed or their past revisions, and what we're trying to do is make it so that they're customizable.
Tim, I think we're losing you.
Yeah, we lost you.
Well, until Tim comes back, I think we were trying to confirm that.
But Tim is back.
Oh, are you back? Okay.
All right, Tim, we lost you.
Why does this always happen to me? I'm at home here. I should have better internet. You're
good right now.
So is one of the goals to provide it so that like each revision could have a number of states, some of which we don't know what they are yet, right? That Contrib might be able to come up with them. So that a Contrib module might come up which adds a needs approval state or status. And that what the real goal of this particular module is just to make that possible. Is that fair, or can anybody answer that?
It really, the level of ambition that we have for this issue is yet to be fully determined, it seems like.
Yeah, I think I'm asking about the minimal, like
Ideally,
behind the
ideally,
scenes goal.
yes. So ideally, it will allow both future and past revisions to exist. Revisions will have states, but there will only be one version that is published, which will be the actual, yeah. And the other ones, the other ones can be, you can tree off of any revision at any point and create future revisions, and at some point these can be reviewed and published and replace the published one. So that's
So my-
the rough.
We'll call it
Yeah.
published. We're gonna
My-
call it yes.
Yeah.
My
Whatever we end
question,
up with.
my question is that sounds to me like what we've been talking about from the UI, like what we expect for users to be able to do now. But when I read back through the issue, I feel like there's an underlying goal, which is to make it easier for a contrib module to add a new state that we're not even envisioning right now in the UI. So for example, we might just have like the current published version, and we might have a future revision and a past. But in the future, the goal is that, like with this pull request, that a contrib module could add 3 or 4 more different states.
Right,
Is that
right.
right?
So right
Yeah.
now, there's no state at all, but
Right.
what we're
Yeah.
adding is on off. And what might happen in the future is any number of other things other than on
Yeah.
or off.
Right.
And well, and I think that the biggest problem that we face right now is that the current revision is always like the most recent one is
Mhm.
always the active / current one. And
Right.
there's no option to not have that be the case.
Okay.
And so there's no idea of state, like different states on revisions. And yes, maybe a contrib module could handle that, but in order to facilitate that, there needs to be the ability to have a revision that isn't the active one or the current one. And
Mhm.
so you can't do that right now without jumping through a bunch of hoops. So that was the primary objective, is to
Right.
make it so that that's possible. But it starts having repercussions immediately when we introduce that capability.
And mostly user interface repercussions. I think
Mhm.
the change to the underlying data structure is fairly simple, but trying to figure out how to translate
Right.
that in a world of publishing, scheduling, URL aliases, like all of the other stuff that we have that could potentially change, it gets really complicated. So we're just trying to figure out how to make a user interface that makes sense, even though our data makes sense.
Okay.
So
that answers my question. Thank you.
Go ahead,
So you're
Joseph.
saying that there's currently no way to have the current revision be anything other than the newest revision? Is that just because of how the code that saves the nodes works? Because we have a field on the node table that is a revision ID, and we could just change that to whatever revision we wanted, couldn't we?
Yes. So yeah, you're right that it's possible already, but it's a hassle. So after the node is saved, then you have to go back and retro update the revision to make a different one active. So yeah, it's the way the node is saved right now is the problem, that it doesn't allow when you save a node and make a new revision, it always makes it the active one. And the initial idea was just to make it so that didn't have to happen.
All right.
Okay. So further commentary on that, there's a review document, or it looks like it's probably a Google Doc. A Google Doc that is discussing the back and forth, but it's funny that Google Doc is basically just preparing to post a comment to the issue, just because we've been all over the place, and it'd be nice to have one that was actually canonical as the direction. That's it for 116 issues. Do you guys have any other features or issues that you guys would like to mention? Okay.
Not at the moment. There's a lot of interesting things to grab for the next minor one, but not
I'm still not. Okay. I'm still not officially advocating for one yet. I have one in mind. I'll bring that up next week, but just a reminder for anybody who wants to advocate for an issue, right? We're still doing that.
Mhm.
Yep. So please, if you have a particular issue in the issue queue you really want to work on, let us know or put your name down. I don't know. Okay. I want to, one sort of new topic or in the proposed initiatives, a group of us are talking about telemetry
Yes.
and have decided that we'd like to have a meeting, that probably the thing to do would be to have a meeting outside of this to just wrap our heads around what that, you know, what that would look like, whether or not it becomes an official initiative or not. I think we're interested in having that discussion. And I just want to mention that during this meeting. So if anybody's interested, they should go to the forum under the initiative section and let us know you're interested. And two, make sure that that's the best way to handle that, or if it would be better to set aside time during one of a future dev meetings to talk about it. Any thoughts on that?
Well, we seem to have finished this meeting pretty early. We have another 20 minutes, so if there's nothing else to discuss and people do not object, we can start discussing that.
Well, I think Jeff has something to talk about, and I wanted to make two other announcements, and I'll just make those now because they're quick. One, we have a virtual user group next week. Jen, are you ready?
Not right now.
Next Tuesday, Jen is doing a presentation on moving from Drupal 7 to Backdrop. And we've also announced sort of open office hours the day after that, which we'd planned to do anyways, but on that particular day, it'll be a chance for, like, if somebody's at the session on Tuesday and they want to come back on Wednesday and ask questions, they can in Gitter and Slack or Gitter and Zulip. Anyways, that was one announcement. The other thing I'll just mention, I still haven't posted on the calendar, but the first Twin Cities in-person Drupal user or Backdrop user group is going to be 2 weeks from Tuesday. So I've saved the space, so, and I'll be announcing that. That's all.
Okay.
Jeff, how about your thing?
Yeah, I started a Backdrop weekly newsletter, and there's a website there where you can submit content. So if you guys have come across any cool Backdrop stuff, like the things that you just said, Tim, would be great to get on there. So just plug for that, check that out. And if you guys have blogs or information like Tim just said, let's get it on there.
And that's at howtobackdrop.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of announcements and events, Jen is, since we're all talking about things Jen's doing, March 12th is the San Francisco Drupal users group, and Jen is going to be presenting on Backdrop at that event. So it's been a while since we've been in the to a local Drupal users group to pitch Backdrop. So we're going to do that again.
When did you say that is?
March 12th in San Francisco.
So the goal was to do it once in the Backdrop user group and see how it goes and see if there's anything that people thought was missing or needed to be added. And then I can adapt that and do it again in San Francisco for a Drupal audience and see what they have to say about it.
Okay. I think that might be it. Anything else? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Great meeting, and thanks everybody for coming, and thanks everybody out there for watching. Keep on doing the Backdrop thing, and see you guys on the internet. Bye.